Unlike HTML, which is a coding language that determines the structure of your website, CSS, or cascading style sheets, determines your website's visual appearance. HTML on its own looks pretty bland. If you've seen my beginner's guide to HTML, you'll know this fact quite well. The small web page that was made looked very basic and bare bones. However, with CSS, we can change things up. If you aren't familiar with HTML, I highly recommend giving that video a watch first before seeing this one because we will be building off the concepts taught there. So, what exactly can CSS do to a web page? Well, all kinds of things. It can change the colors, fonts, layout, and positioning of HTML elements, and even do animations with those elements. CSS is an absolutely necessary tool to creating any type of website. And just so you can get more of a solid understanding of that fact, here is Amazon.com. You have probably been on this website plenty of times to browse for certain items online that you're looking to buy. The site looks pretty great, right? The coloring, contrast, fonts, and images blend very well together. Upon removing all the CSS using a browser extension called Web Developer, you can see how the site goes through a massive change. It is completely unrecognizable. It's literally just plain text with some images and buttons. This is because CSS plays a crucial role in the creation of websites by formally defining how the website visually appears on your screen. Think of HTML as being a car that just left the factory. It's entirely white and has no visual additions whatsoever. Upon adding paint and other features, the car will start to look a lot like something you'd see at your local dealer. The visual additions like the paint in this example would represent the CSS. It breathes life into an otherwise boring and basic looking car. So how can we actually start using CSS on a fundamental level? Alright, so I have a basic HTML file right here. So I'm going to be just pretty much showing you some simple commands you can do in CSS and just give you the basic rundown of how to use the language. So you have this your HTML file, pretty basic. Just have two header 1 tags here with their text and image. And yeah, so let's go ahead and run this. So we run that without debugging. Open up Chrome. As you can see, this is the website. Pretty simple, pretty basic. This is all pretty much HTML can do for you. Text, images, no colors, no nothing too interesting here. So we can go ahead and minimize that. Basically, there's two ways to write your CSS code. You can write it within your HTML file, or you can write it in a separate file. It is highly recommended that you write it in a separate file because the more advanced your projects get, the bigger the HTML file is gonna get, and then you're gonna make it even bigger with CSS code in it, and it's just gonna become one big giant file that is really hard to navigate through. So it's a lot better to just separate your code into small bits and pieces, so that it can be easier to debug your code and easier to navigate through and just easier to read in general. If you really did want to just test something to write CSS inside the HTML file, you'd go inside the head tag, and then you write the two style tags, and then from here you'd write your CSS code inside. But we aren't going to do that. We're going to actually link to a different file to write our CSS code. So firstly, we'll go ahead and make the file in the same directory. So tester is a folder, and then inside this folder we have index.html. I'm using Visual Studio Code as my code editor, but generally the fundamentals, like what I'm actually doing, you pretty much just have to replicate it in your editor of choice. But basically you just want to create a new file inside the folder your index.html is in, preferably, and then you can go ahead and name it style.css. Style is just a formality, usually what people name their CSS file, and then .css tells the computer that what you're going to be writing in the file is CSS code. So from here, we actually need to link this HTML to the style.css, the style sheet. We need to connect them together. How we would do this is inside the head tag, we're going to use a special link tag. This is self-closing, so we don't need another one. And basically, we're going to add two attributes, rel style sheet. And this basically just says, hey, we're linking to a style sheet, because remember, CSS stands for cascading style sheet. And then from here we can write href and then the actual link to the file. So // gets the directory that your HTML file is in. So okay, so what else is in here? So like tester is basically // is a quick way of writing tester, basically. Like the folder we're in right now, and then the folder we're in right now has a CSS file in it, and then we click on that, and yeah, that's basically, we're pretty much fully linked up. So what can we actually do? If we refresh the page, nothing happens. So how does CSS work? Well, basically in CSS we're pretty much just referencing the tags we've already written here. So let's take the head tag for example, because this is actually where we get to the visual aspect of our HTML. This is more of just metadata. But our body tag, what we can do here is write body, and then this is basically like adding a style to the body tag. And the body tag is basically the website, like pretty much everything that contains the website for the most part. From here you can write background color equals purple, and then from here you can refresh the page, and when you look at that, the background color is now gone from a boring white color to a nice purple color. So let's reference the two H1 tags and make them yellow, for example. I know I'm choosing atrocious colors, but I'm just teaching you how to do CSS right here. So H1, you can do this time color of yellow, and if we run that, as you can see, they are yellow. Now what if you want let's say I love coding to be on this right side, for example. You can basically, you're gonna need to specifically reference this first. So if you noticed, I have actually two IDs here, two attributes here. You probably don't recognize them, but these are basically ways to identify a specific tag. You do ID. Basically you can only use it once, you can't duplicate this. And basically, like you can't duplicate the specific name for the ID. But basically we have two IDs here, identifiers, that identify the specific H1. So what you can actually do is something like, let's see, hashtag, and then we can do love is one of the identifiers, right? As you can see here, love is an ID for the I love coding H1, and then we can just, then we're basically just specifically modifying that H1 tag, and then we can do like, let's say float right, and there we go. As you can see, command the program stays on the left, and then I love coding actually goes to the right, which is very cool. What you can also do is resize the font too. You can go like, let's see here, font size, and do, let's see, 20 pixels. Let's see how big that is gonna be. Oh, that's actually a lot smaller than what we had before. Let's try a little bit bigger. Let's go big, 100 pixels, ambitious. Wow, nice and big right there. Yeah, we can do the same with images as well. So we can just get the image tag, and then from there we can just write width. So there's two commands we can do: width and then write a value, or height and write a value. But when you're dealing with an image, you can just use width, for example, just one of the two, and then CSS will basically just automatically resize the height to fit the aspect ratio. So you don't have to worry about keeping the aspect ratio. So if you do like 400 pixels, for example, I don't know how big this is going to be. Right, it's a lot smaller, but the image has still maintained that same aspect ratio. But yeah, this is pretty much the basics to CSS right here, just giving you an introduction. Basically, CSS is just selectors, where you're selecting a specific part of your HTML, a specific piece, using you know, trying to get the tag specifically. Maybe you're getting an ID, so you can get a specific tag. That's pretty much how it's basically going to go. Now, there's obviously quite a bit more to CSS than just this, but this is just the basic fundamentals of what CSS actually is, which is basically what I'm trying to communicate here. But that's pretty much all I have for this video, just a basic rundown of CSS. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And there's just more coding content on the way. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a blessed day. Take care.